Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the panelists and the attendees as well. It's a great morning to look at cotton as one of our topic points today, and I think there's none other better than the panelists that we have. I think from every domain of cotton who have expertise to offer. I think there's a lot to learn from every speaker that we have today. Uh, I'll quickly start off with the introduction, and then we would start to ask each of the panelists to provide their opinions. First of all, we have a very eminent speaker, Mr. Vijay Sardana. He is a member CDAC and SEBI. Mr. Vijay Sardana is an advocate in Delhi High Court and arbitrator in Indian Council of Arbitration, an international trainer and an expert Asia Productivity Organization for Tokyo, Japan. He is an independent director at NAP Kisan Financial Services, a subsidiary of NABARD. He's also a public interest director, Metropolitan Stock Exchange of India, various boards, and also part of various expert committees. Welcome and good morning, Mr. Vijay Sardana. Welcome to the panel.
Morning to all of you. Good morning.
Welcome, Shri S.K. Panigrihi. He is Chief General Manager Marketing for Cotton Corporation of India. Mr. Panigrihi has an experience of nearly 3 decades in cotton. Before joining CCI, he served with JK Group of Companies at Odisha for 2 years. After joining CCI in the year 1996, he has worked in various departments like finance, marketing, and human resources. He's worked on various capacities in CCI. He's played a very vital role in formulating marketing and financial strategy for Cotton Corporation of India. Welcome, Shri Panigrihi, and good morning to you. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Alok Pradhan. Mr. Pradhan is presently spearheading a prominent African banking franchise with Axim Bank. He's the head of collateral finance at Axim Bank. Prior to Axim Bank, Mr. Pradhan has spent 15 plus years in post-harvest agriculture sector in India, predominantly in finance, logistics, and warehousing. He has worked with HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank in various roles, and also has worked in major collateral management companies like NBFC and Sri Shubham in leadership roles. Welcome, Alok, to the panel, and good morning to you. You're joining in from East Africa, so a very early good morning to you. So, and thank you for joining in. You're on mute, Alok. So
thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome Mr. He is a Deputy General Manager, Commodity Products and Business Development at BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange. Mr. Dave has been associated with various organizations involved in commodities and currency derivatives. He has hands-on experience in exchange operations, product management, risk management, and business development. He joined BSE in 2016 in its commodity and currency derivatives and has been successfully able to garner significant positions by launching new and innovative products like options on goods. BSE, he was associated with M6 India for more than a decade, where he played a vital role. Mr. Pinnigan, welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning and thank you. Good morning, everyone.
I'd like to welcome Mr. Brajraj Singh. Mr. Brajraj is the CEO for Origo Commodities. He is an experienced agribusiness professional with extensive experience in rural supply chain and distribution of agriculture inputs, corporate banking, and post-harvest management. Mr. Brajraj also heads the core group of post-harvest management and infrastructure under expert committee on agribusiness in PhD chambers. Good morning, Brajraj, and welcome to the panel as well. We would like to start off with the vast experience and the expertise of Mr. Vijay Sardana. Mr. Sardana, we would like to hear from you, and I think we discussed it when we had the intro meeting as well, like cotton as an ecosystem, and from your viewpoints, how can it do better? The changes, the improvements we should look forward to, and the policy changes, any opinions that you have to offer. So over to you, Mr. Sadana.
First of all, good morning to all of you. And it's a chilly morning started in Delhi. I think everything is coming to the full circle. Last year we had a great time in Diwali. Now we are approaching Diwali. And this is the time when we have to really plan for better businesses. Regarding cotton, when we are looking at, I think cotton is one of the most fantastic crop given by the nature. It is a natural fiber. In society, when we all are talking about moving back to nature, I think cotton is one aspect which we have to take it very seriously. But at the same time, I'll share some of the hard statistics with you all that what we should look at. But today, at the same time, when we are talking about nature's gift to mankind, that is fiber, that in the form of cotton, we have to also look at that technically and from business point of view, cotton is at crossroads. What we saw in last 20 years and what we are going to see in next 10 years, it's very interesting that how the whole business economy around cotton is going to shape up. And that will decide what is the future and what we should do as business planners when it comes to cotton as a space. See, if you look at what is happening in the last 20 years, the first decade of this century, there was a very good opportunity for cotton. But in last one decade, the margins in cotton were shrinking. Reason is very simple. Because when we are looking at fiber, when there is a natural fiber, at the same time, there is a fiber which is also coming from a synthetic sources. And how it is going to impact, I will let you know in a minute. The total volume of cotton production in the world today, if you look at, is around $50 billion. Whatever cotton we produce in the world, the value is around $50 billion. Out of that, something about $18 billion worth cotton is traded. Now, if you look at the base thing, which is the cotton total production, the product which are around fiber in the world trade, whether you talk about textile, talk about fabric, you talk about industrial fabric, industrial textile, whatnot, various aspects where fiber is used, the total market for that product, if I say the fiber-oriented products, is something about $750 billion. Now, this is where you have to look at ecosystem. That one side we talk about the cotton production, which is value is just $50 billion. But if you look at the value addition opportunity of cotton with other polymers, whether it's a blend, whether it is in pure cotton fabric, industrial cotton, various applications, I can go into details. If you have time, we convert this 50 billion with the collaboration of other polymer into $750 billion market opportunity. This is one way we have to look at it. It means that there is a huge value addition opportunity when it comes to cotton. As country, as India, are we only looking at commodity trade, or we are looking at opportunity in value addition? And that is what we are, I'm saying is that we in cotton segment, we are at turning point. Today, most of the focus of India, like any other commodity in cotton, is also that we are only interested in doing trade in commodities, which is sad part of the whole business economy. Unless we bring value addition, unless we do some value addition into the process, all the effort which we are doing in production of cotton today, we are supposed to be world's largest cotton producer. We produce something about 23 to 25% of world cotton. We are only a commodity supplier, whereas we should rule the pricing in the market, but we are price taker, not decider. And that is what is important for us to look at it. The largest exporter, now look at, US is only 15% of the producer, but they export 35% of the cotton. This shows that either they have a better quality or they have a low price than what we have, or they have both options, which is quality-wise and price-wise, they are better than us. It means what we are doing in cotton space, there is a lot to learn. Second important segment which we are looking at The Brazil, which is 10% producer of the world cotton, is exporting 22% of the world cotton. Again, there is a message for us that countries which are low producer than us, why we are able to capitalize more in the world market. India, which is 23% or 25% of the world producer, we are only 7% exporter in the world market. What this indicates? If we are efficient producer and if quality is good, then why we are so low? It means either we have to work on our cost of production, or we have to focus on quality, or we have to focus on both. There is a message in these numbers. So what I'm saying is that today we have to seriously look at that we are continuing to increase the cotton production in this country by application of better genetics. But are we able to capitalize that effort? Data clearly says no, this is not the reality right now. One of the major aspects of the cotton in the value addition side, China, which is also one of the major producer of cotton, actually doing a lot of value addition. Even small countries, those who are not producer like Bangladesh, Vietnam, they are now moving into value addition category. So there is going to be a lot of import of cotton for value addition. And if you look at, if I take a little bit more macro scenario, consumption of cotton is reducing in developed economy. It's not going up. The growth in cotton segment is happening in developing economy, mainly Asia and Africa. And that is what we have to look at it, that very often when we look into trade, we have to, just a minute, there's an urgent call. Ma'am, good morning. Ma'am, I'm just addressing a webinar. Can I call you after that? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, there was a call from Government of India. So coming into the consumption side, that as a country, as a cotton producer, if I look at down the line 10 years, the growth opportunity is in developing economy like Asia and Africa. Within Asia, if you look at the production, the value addition is shifting away from China to Vietnam, Bangladesh. And India should look into that as an opportunity. So if you are looking at the cotton market, that is one segment we have to look at it. On the other side, if you look into the total import, which is likely to happen in the world market, again, I'm going to give some number to you. The largest importer of cotton down the line, next decade in the world is going to be Bangladesh, and which is next door to us. Vietnam is going to be second largest. Bangladesh and Vietnam will be 20% each. So world's 40% cotton import will take place between Vietnam and Bangladesh. Now, this is where we have to look at it, because we understand these both countries very well. Bangladesh is next door. We know what Bangladesh is doing. A lot of foreign investment is coming into Bangladesh in textile industry. What type of textile they are planning? Can we develop a cotton accordingly? Instead of doing our own production without understanding what the market is looking at, then what we will have is like in any other commodity, we will produce a lot of cotton. We sit on the inventory and look for a market which is not requiring what we are trying to produce. And that's what I'm saying, that Indian cotton industry is at crossroad. We have to think it very, very seriously. So Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, Turkey, Indonesia, they will actually take care of the market, and rest of the market is going to be 25%, which is developed economy. Now, this is one aspect we have to keep in mind when we are talking of production planning in cotton. Now, if you look into what is likely to happen in production side in the world market is likely to increase only by next one, as per the projections, in next 1 decade is not more than 3 to 4 million tons in production. And area under cultivation will also increase by 2 to 3 million tons, mainly covered by some parts of Africa and some part of other developing economies, definitely not in developed economies. So this is the ground reality in front of us. That is our raw material sourcing. Coming back to where the opportunities are, as I mentioned to you, that fiber-oriented approach is something about $750 billion opportunity. We today only focus on cotton from a human consumption, or I'll say that textile and fabric for human intake. But at the same time, there is a huge opportunity for industrial fabrics, huge specialty line. When we are talking of industrialization in India, you also need large number of functional textiles, industrial textiles, which is required by the industrial application. And let me tell you, I was operating oil industry as a CEO, MD of the companies. It is very difficult to get a good quality, even filter cloth in India. In absence of filter cloth, we were moving into synthetic filters. Now, if this is happening within India, we are not happy with the quality of filter cloth which is available in the market, and we are moving into synthetic filters. What this indicates? Who will buy from us when Indian local industry is not happy with the raw material or the quality of product which is available? Can we export? So that is what I'm trying to say, is that sometimes we feel that we are the largest producer of cotton and we feel that it is a great achievement. No. If you are largest producer and you are not able to supply to the market, the same largest production will become liability for you, like we are looking in sugar, like we are looking into wheat, like we are looking into paddy. So largest production without creating market and without doing value addition, simply claiming that we are the largest producer in the world is actually a liability, it is not an asset. And that is what mindset we have to look at it. So anyone who claims that we are the largest producer, I think we have not capitalized the market. So what is the use of production if we cannot move into the market by creating some wealth for the country and the farmers? Another area we have to keep in mind very, very clearly now, because of climate change factors, many areas in cotton production belts will have an impact either in the change in disease profile, yield factors. There's going to be need to have a better seeds. And that is what we have to look at it. Third aspect, we have to also keep in mind that cotton prices are now very closely linked to the polyester prices. It is true that consumers are moving towards natural fiber like cotton, but industrial consumer, which is much bigger than human consumer, I'll say even equally, 50% of the world market is industrial consumer, not the human consumers. They are looking for a better, high quality functional fabric. And this is the challenge for cotton, that can we stand against the polyester and other new synthetic fibers which are coming up? If not, we will be further marginalized. And that is what one has to look at it. Another area which was creating a lot of fresh market for the demand in developed economy was the sale of second-hand clothing to developing economies or poor countries like Africa, where used clothing were going into those markets. And the urban consumers were buying it, the fresh ones. Now, many countries are putting restriction on buying a used clothing for a human use. What will happen? And that will have a reverse pressure on the developing economies, that instead of going into a disposal option, maybe look at if you are using a jean only for jean clothing or any other clothing for 6 months, why don't you use it for 9 months or 1 year at least? And further replacement, if goes down, the demand for cotton in developed economy will go down. Or at least fabric in developed cotton will go down, developed countries. So there is going to be change in behavior because of awareness about wastage, awareness about pollution, lack of demand of reused or used fabric in many developing economies, especially in Africa. So what we are trying to look at is there's going to be shift, and that is what we have to look at it. As far as policies are concerned, there is going to be definitely support for pushing the exports in countries like America, because they will continue to support their farmers. So their subsidy, their support price in America will continue. Europe is not a very big producer of cotton, but America will continue to dominate in the world market. So countries like India, which are the largest producer, if you have to find a space in the world market in cotton, we have to have a very specific strategy. And one simple strategy is that quality-based production. Understand the market, which I'm saying is your next door market is Bangladesh. Let Indian cotton industry have a detailed discussion with the Bangladesh cotton industry or fabric industry. What type of cotton they are looking at? What are their functional needs? What is the strength? What is the count? Whatever they are looking at. And today, instead of cotton, the demand for yarn is going up. Nobody wants to buy a raw material. So people are not interested in raw material. They say, convert your cotton into yarn so that we immediately move into the factory. Why we want to have another value addition or additional cost in the process? And creating a lot of wastage in the way and unnecessary handling charges and a whole lot of other policy challenges. Because when you are exporting cotton, it is taken as a threat to local farmers of cotton producer. But when you import yarn, it is not considered as a dumping of a commodity, but it is taken as a value-added product, as a raw material for industrial use. So if India has to move faster into many countries, I think we have to also focus on value addition. Instead of cotton, we should focus on yarns, so that it is considered as a value-added product, and your customers can buy directly the material of your choice, whether it is strength-wise, it is count size, whether it is dyed yarn or whatever you want to give, so that they buy raw material from us of the quality they want and immediately move that yarn into a value-added production area, whether it is fabrics, textiles, or whatever they are looking at it. So that is one way of I'm looking at it. Now, one big play is in China. The whole game was China so far. China was actually stabilizing the price by building a lot of inventory. But as we know that there is the opposition and there is a shift in the global dynamics, China's labor cost is going up. They are facing some form of a political backlash because of various reasons in recent times. And that is why many investors and buyers are moving away from China to Vietnam and Bangladesh. So that is what I'm trying to say, is that in both the countries, we have a strategic advantage over China. Chinese are also investing in these countries. They don't want to lose the market. If geography is becoming a challenge for business, many Chinese investors or foreign investors, those who are investing earlier in China, are now investing in Bangladesh and Vietnam. Are they investing in India? They can always invest in India and take the benefit of local raw material base. I think this is where the cotton segment and cotton industry should very seriously do introspection. Why investors are not coming into India to utilize the cotton raw material base, which we are the largest in the world? What is creating bottleneck in investments in cotton segment, and why people are going to Vietnam, why people are going to Bangladesh and not coming to India? I think cotton industry associations and CCI must seriously do an introspection. Don't think that we have a great thing and India is great and we are doing what is great. No. The fact of the matter is that if investor is not coming to you and going to Bangladesh and Vietnam, then something is wrong at our end. Whether we accept it or not, that is our problem. But investor has taken a decision that we will invest in Bangladesh or Vietnam, not in India. It means this message is more powerful than any political message and any statement of any minister or any secretary in government of India. So that is what I'm saying, is look at the hard facts. There is no fun in accepting and living in this illusion that we are the largest producer. No, I think we have created the largest liability in cotton in the world for ourselves. How to convert this liability into asset is the game plan now. And I don't see much action on ground when it comes to converting raw material into value-added product and becoming one of the best supplier of the value-added products, not only for fabric and clothing and shirts and pants. I'm saying if I look at it, the segments which are there, as I mentioned to you, and if you go to interestingly HS code, I think the largest number, chapter starting from all the way from chapter 54 to 63, almost 10, 11 chapters, only on cotton related products. This is the largest category in world trade. You will not find 11 chapters in HS code dedicated to one segment which is related to fiber. Even equipment and machinery does not have so many things. Chemicals does not have so many things. It means these are specialty textiles. Don't club them together. Apparel clothing is one aspect. Within apparel clothing, if I say that knitted and non-knitted, it's an entirely different category. It means if they're different category, it means they need a different quality requirements. They need a different set of raw material. Are we planning to address them? Then we have a man-made textile. Then we have manpower filaments. Then stable fabric, knitted and man-made, specialty yarn, texturized industrial use applications, woven fabric, carpeting and whatnot. Everywhere cotton is required. But this cotton is not same what is there for textile. Are you saying that same cotton yarn or fabric is required? What is required for clothing vis-a-vis carpet making or for industrial application? No, they are different functional properties. Are we looking into these opportunities? And these all are, if I say in very simple terms, more than 10 to $50 billion market. And that is what I'm saying. We are not looking into opportunity. We are unfortunately feel very happy that we are the largest producer of cotton. We have so many bales every year, and we can supply cotton, and we stop there itself. Whereas there are 11 categories, even in HS code, I'm saying chapter wise, if you go further into chapter, you will find at least 10 subsections in each. So there are 100 types of consumer base. How much we understand? Where is the database in India to address the cotton requirement of the world market? I want to see, I have not seen a single paper from any cotton association, including CCI or the Cotton Research Institution, that for all these 100 different segments, what type of cotton we can offer, what are their quality requirements, how much we produce of that cotton, either cotton or yarn made out of that cotton or fabric made out of our cotton. Where is that research? Where is that market intelligence? Without that, without adding knowledge to business, without adding knowledge to commodity, you cannot win the market and you cannot create value addition in the segment. So my submission is that cotton is a huge opportunity. It's a $750 billion opportunity. We are the largest producer of cotton. Market is there. We have a raw material. What is missing is the knowledge and the market intelligence and the capability to understand the market, do value addition. I fully appreciate that we may not be the best in understanding everything. Why don't we look at collaborations? Why not we have a partnership with people, those who understand these games? I think we have to get out of the mindset of commodity suppliers and commodity traders. The problem in Indian overall agriculture space is we are just a traders. We are not business people. We are not an investor. We are not an industrialist. Unless we get out from the traders mindset, we will not be able to make any significant presence in the world market. One side, our farmer will continue to struggle for MSP and prices. On the other side, our industries will continue to do business in 1% and 2% like a trader. And then we will only look at the word that small countries are making more money than us. And we have only option left is keep cribbing and keep blaming the government that market theek nahi hai sab. Market was always there. Do we have capability to capitalize in the market? And this challenge is not of resources. Challenge is not of technology. All are available in the world. The challenge is mindset. Are we willing to get out of the commodity mindset and start thinking value addition? If not, we will continue to suffer. And every year you increase more production in cotton, you will create more liability for you. And this is, I am saying, again, very seriously, we are at crossroad. I think it is high time we should look at how to capitalize cotton and make wealth out of it. 25% cotton production, 750 crores of world market. Can we capitalize 100 crores? Can we have 150 crores, at least 20% of the world market? Let's think of it. And that's the way forward. So this is what I wanted to share. There can be many more questions I can answer later on. But right now, the opening remarks, I thought let me put a little wider perspective. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think this was very enlightening. On one side, it feels good that we have some pointers for us to take action on. On the other side, I feel that we have lost out on some things to the bigger countries so far, but I think this is the first time I've heard that we have lost out to smaller countries as well, even smaller country like Bangladesh as well. But Mr. Sadana, one question, if you can think of one or two reasons why we lost out this battle to Bangladesh and even a smaller entity like Vietnam, where did we go wrong? And what can we do to fix it? So just a couple of thoughts from you before we move on to the next speaker.
See, one way of looking at going to Bangladesh is one is the cost of production. I understand that in Bangladesh, labor standards and safety standards are low. But at the same time, when we are talking about certification of quality, ISO and environmental standards and other things, we can always look at partners in the world market, big buyers in the world market, and attract them with high quality standards. That is one aspect. Second aspect is that somewhere our corporate governance in India is not very of high standard. We have expertise in cutting corners. We feel, breaking law is pride. I think somewhere we have to change our mindset. As long as Indian corporate industry or corporate segment is not strong on corporate governance, investors will always remain hesitant. I talk to many of the investors in different parts of the world. Their only point is that, are we reliable, partner in the game? Problem is of reliability. Reliability not of quality of material, one aspect. Even in partnership, are we reliable partner? And if you look at most of the joint ventures in India, sooner or later they face trouble and the problems because of our different mindset, different approaches. We try to save money. The partner wants to invest more for growth. And this is just pulling in the whole organization into opposite. For many investors, money is a means to achieve a bigger goal. Most of the entrepreneurs and traders in India, money is the end product. We don't have a desire to become excellent. We don't have a desire to invest in training. We don't have a desire to invest in quality. We are only interested in somehow I should have some good bank balance in my bank. And that's all. That is our end product of business. I think this mindset will not take us much far. And that is where I think, again, I'm saying it is a problem of mindset. It is not the problem of resources. The world is flooded with zero interest capital today. Why it is not coming to India? Think over it. So what I'm trying to say is that unless Indian industry changes where we accrue, and first symbol is, are we strong on corporate governance? If we are not strong on corporate governance, forget it, nobody will invest. Because people want to see how we function, our philosophies, our approaches, our systems, how we operate within our systems. I may be richest person, but I can be corrupt. So what? So nobody will deal with me. Money they have, they don't need money from us. What they need is a competency to manage local resources so that they can trust us. But they know it the minute I hand over money to any joint venture partner in India, how good or badly that money will be managed, that is their apprehension. Not the source of money. So that is what I'm requesting is that let us focus on corporate governance. Opportunity is huge. Otherwise, why they should go to Vietnam and Bangladesh and import cotton and do value addition, pay the transportation cost, pay the custom duty, bear all the overheads, and still they are happy in operating in Bangladesh and Vietnam. But they are not interested in operating in India where we have everything in-house. So there is some serious message on us. And for corporate governance, there is no legal challenge. There is no law in India which says that you adopt corrupt practices. There is no law in India which says you cheat your customers and partners. There is not a single law in the country. But why we do it? So it is not the legal challenge, it is the challenge of mindset. So unless we change that, I don't see a future. World will get alternate suppliers. Africa will produce cotton down the line 10 years and supply to the world. To whom we will supply, we have to start thinking about it. So that is, I would say that it is not a technological challenge, it is an issue of mindset.
Thank you, Mr. Sadana. Thank you for your inputs. I would like to also encourage the panelists to, if they have any questions, and also the attendees, you can post your questions on our Q&A section, and I would reach out to the speakers if the questions are directed to them. I would like to invite Shri Panigrahi. Shri Panigrahi, I would like if you could talk about MSP policy, the procurement, and the initiatives at Cotton Corporation. And also maybe address some of the points that Mr. Thadhana raised about how we can drive more behavior towards value addition as compared to what we are as a producer as of now. So over to you, Mr. Panigrahi.
Yeah, very good morning to all of you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk on the MSP operation of the corporation, CCI. Mr. Vijay already explained the world economy of cotton. What is the advantage, what is the disadvantage of cotton to the world economy and Indian production, everything is explained. Being cotton is known as the white gold, and it is the major cotton, raw material for production of cotton, production of textile industry. It is consuming around 59 to 60% of the total production. And this is the reasons that initially in India, in the beginning of before 1880s, there is very less production in India. For that, CCI is born in 1970 to as a channelizing agency for import of cotton. Previously, there was very shortfall of cotton in India, and textile mills are used to import the cotton to benefit the industry, and government has introduced established CCI in 1970, in 2nd July 1970, as a channel agency for importing cotton. And since then, we are doing an import of cotton up to 80s. And after 80s, due to various development activities and various government measures, and production of cotton in India is increasing day by day, and year to year, and day by day. And now we are as a surplus country. Now India is a surplus country, and as rightly said Vijayji, and we are the #1 in production across the world. We reached this in the last 3-4 years. We reached this to this level as a #1 producer of cotton in India. But in the other side, see the farmers why they used to go cotton because there is no guarantee, no guarantee from any corner from government. Then there is a very difficult stage. Sometimes because of market fluctuations, market may go down, then they may suffer. So that's the reason that the government has introduced this minimum support price scheme. In 1966-67, this government minimum support price scheme was introduced by Government of India. First time in for the wheat, and in the wake of the Green Revolution, and the extended harvest, and to save the farmers from depleting profits. Since then, MSP region started. It's in 1966-67, and this region started with wheat, and now this expanded to many crops. Now, since so many years, it is MSP is declared for 25 crops, 25 agricultural crops, and varies from around 13 to 14 crop for Rabi Kharif crop, and for 7 to 8 crop for Rabi crop, and for other crops also, including cotton. In the Kharif, cotton is a Kharif crop, and minimum price, as you know, is set by the government to purchase crops from the farmers, whatever may be the market price from the crops. And the minimum support is the important part of India agriculture price policy. It declares before the sowing time, assures the farming community for the agricultural income, besides providing a clear price signal. This is the reason that MSP is declared by the Government of India, and this helps to incentivize the farmers and thus ensure adequate supply of agricultural produce to the country. By recommending the MSP, the various cost concept is considered by Government of India. For that, on CACP is there, cost and commission for agricultural produce. And that this entire structure of cotton, while calculating the MSP price, finally the MSP price, they account for entire structure of cotton economy, cotton cost of cultivation, change in input prices, input-output price parity, trend in market price, demand and supply situation, domestically international market situation, intercrop parity, etc. And then after adding this regional profit to the cost of the cultivation, the MSP price is recommended by CACP to Government of India, and based on the discussion, Cabinet committee has finalized the MSP price, and thus it declared for two crops, for Rabi crop separately and for Kharif crop separately. And while input cost, they consider the actual cost of the cultivation, including expenditure done on seeds, fertilizers, hired laborers, leased land, and hired machinery, and the value of the family labor. And now this to add to this, the last 3 years, government is trying to doubling the farmers' income. Now they are introduced a formula of 1.5% time of cost of production. That is A2 plus FL. That is A2 is the actual paid out of the cost, include expenditure done on seed, fertilizers, side labors, and FL is the actual paid cost plus the value of family labor. These two adding that 1.5% time of the cost that the government is fixing for MSP price. The main objective of the minimum support price is to avoid losses to cotton farmers by providing them an alternative price at which cotton can be sold by them. This is assured price farmers can get. An MSP system ensures remunerative price to the cotton farmer and saves them from distress sale in any eventuality and for the fair average quality cotton. There are various advantages are there and disadvantages are there. Disadvantages also there in MSP scheme. Main advantage is the price volatility. And once the MSP is procured by the government, especially in cotton, if cotton price if production is more and market is down, if nobody is there in market to assure the farming community, then price may volatile, price may go down, and the market may crash also. So that is the reason that MSP is there. Sometimes it may badly affect also. That I agree with Vijayji that sometimes we are affecting the world economy also MSP. But at times since last COVID time, last year, you can see the last year, when market is crashed like anything. But this is the only because of MSP scheme only farmers are saved. Otherwise, there is a drastic situation already arose in last year. And this is the reason that MSP is there. Because of MSP, there is price volatility and stimulate market price also. And it ensures the remunerative price to the cotton farmers and saves from the distress sale. This saves them from the distress sale. And because of since sometimes because of price downfall of the price and some liquid response from the traders and other purchasers, and the MSP scheme is get the value the assurance from the farmers, where they get the assurance that MSP is there and government will definitely purchase the MSP. And now this another aspect is the quality. Now the government has declared the MSP on quality base, even though quality the MSP is declared for two varieties. For cotton, I'm speaking especially for cotton, two varieties. But based on the varieties, and government is now declaring various grading the cotton, and based on the grade of the cotton, MSP is declared, and accordingly purchase is being made by the corporate CCI under MSP based on the grade quality only. And this once MSP is procured, this is 100% assurance that farmer will get the payment from the government. This is the main assurance from the government for the farmers, that once MSP procurement is there, definitely they'll get the money. Sometimes some farmers, some traders may cheat the farmers, but government cannot cheat the farmer. Once the purchase is made, definitely MSP they will get the price. And only disadvantage is that this kill the competition. Once the market is stabilized, when market is good, then MSP may kill the competition. So this is the only disadvantage that it may sometimes it hamper the cotton economy, and world economy also MSP, but not always. This advantage is more, and sometimes everything some advantage is there, disadvantage is there, and MSP is advantage always more. As I told, up to early 80s, India was deficient country as far as cotton production is concerned. Due to its cotton textile mills are depending on imported cotton only. But with the improvement of cotton production technology and various government measures, including introduction of MSP from the cotton season in the year 82-83, government introduced MSP for cotton, and gradually increased the now our country is a surplus country. As I told, Cotton Corporation of India was established in 2nd July 1970 as a channelizing agency of Government of India for import of cotton to meet up the shortfall. However, as informed, with changing scenario and increase in production of cotton in India, India becomes self-sufficient, and the role of responsibility CCI is changed and assigned the role of nodal agency of Government of India for procurement of cotton under price support operation without any quantitative limit. For it is very typical, but with other agricultural products, there is a quantity restriction is there. For cotton, there is no quantity restriction, and you can purchase any quantity of fair average quality. And whenever the market price fall below, CCI has to procure cotton from the farmers without any quantitative limit. And from 1982-83, CCI is undertaking minimum support price operation whenever the market rate falls below the minimum support price. And because of CCI presence, cotton farmers will feel empowered and they are assured to get minimum support price for the produce when there is a lukewarm response from the private buyers due to depressed market conditions. Besides this, farmers who sell below FAQ cotton is benefited by having the correct price for their produce in proportion to MSP. If MSP is not there, then all the cotton will sell in the same price. Because of MSP is there, FAQ grade we are procuring, and below FAQ also the traders procuring, but they are also supposed to give the good price only at parity to the MSP price. So both ways they are benefited. As I told, the fair wage quality represents the raw cotton having all the characteristics of varieties as mentioned in the MSP circular. We are mentioning the different varieties. Based on the varieties only, we are procuring the cotton. And since 82, 83, we started with 1,84,000 first year of product MSP year in 1982, 83. CCI has procured around 1.84 lakh bales. And now with the gradually increase in production and the demand and the market situation, everything. And last year, during the year 1920 year, and the CCI has produced a record procurement of 105 lakh bales. This is the highest ever procurement of a corporation by Government of India. This is world record also that we procured such a huge quantity. This happened due to new number of unforeseen factors, including subdued demand of cotton, COVID-19 pandemic, unseasonal rains, and the price of FAQ grade falls below the MSP level drastically. So CCI has to interfere on behalf of the Government of India and has to procure the record quantity of 105 lakh bales in India, and with a value of 29,000 crores. And with our intervention, around 21 lakhs farmers, cotton farmers of India, has benefited under MSP scheme. But recently, Government of India has passed the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion Facilitation Act 2020, dated 27 September 2020, to provide in creation an ecosystem where the farmers and the traders enjoy the freedom of choice relating to sale and purchase of farmers. Now the farmers are free to sell anywhere. There is a very apprehension among the farmers that what about MSP? Now I trying to clear that. Now the government also made it clear, and we also trying to publicize everywhere that MSP is still there. This is the benefit of the farmers only, not to this act is introduced to say that they are free to sell anywhere. Now there are so many restrictions are there. They have to come to APMC only, otherwise they cannot sell their produce. So many restrictions are there. Now that restriction is not there. The farmers are free to sell anywhere in India, and they can sell at their choice to anybody. And now this exploitation may not be there, will not be there, but MSP scheme will continue to that extent whenever the market price falls below the MSP level. So with this intention only, government is trying to continue MSP operation, and current season also. In 2021 also, MSP is already started, and we have already operated in almost all the country, all the states. And basically starting from the north, we already started from north, and continuing in other states. In the recent, will continue, start simultaneously, and by next 15-20 days, will across India procurement will start. Because now the world still it is under depressed condition only, market condition, depressed condition only, and it is likely to, even though since last 7 months, because of various government policies, government measures taken by Government of India, the market is improving. It is definitely, nobody can say the market is not there, market not improving. Now the market is improving, and I think it will gradually, with the intervention of Government of India and the policies, textile policy. The now recently new textile policy also under discussion. I think any time it may come. It is already in public forum. But discussion is going on new textile policy. There some new changes, new policies are being framed, where it can be, we can be Atmanirbhar. This is the government aim, the Atmanirbhar India, and there we are, as I told Ms. Vijay sir told, that we should be more focused on export. But my point is, we should not focus on export, because we should go on value addition in India itself, so that we can sell the end product. We can go for end product, so that we can India itself, because if we export, we are purchasing procurement MSP, and we export it, that is government money you are giving in low price to the other countries. They are enjoying the benefit of low cost, this on the cost of the government, people of the India. So my viewpoint is that our viewpoint is that we should be Atmanirbhar and focus on the value addition in India itself. And this is going to happen, definitely going to happen with the new policies being brought by the government of India, where they are giving more benefit to the textile industry to go for value addition products. So, as regards to quality is concerned, you rightly said, Vijayji, that definitely we are in setback. There is very setback in India. This quality is concerned. There is a mindset. Rightly said, there is no corporate governance. Is there? There is mindset. You should have to change the mindset of the people. To actual quality is good. Indian quality is really good. We can say this is very good in top class quality. But because our mindset only to earn the money at the shortest way, we are doing so many mischiefs in processing itself. So for that reasons only we are not able to take market lead. That is definitely I agree with Vijayji that we should be focused on quality. Even though we are number one in production, our quality is not so good. I am 100% agree with Vijayji. We should be for that reasons only, and CCI particularly is focusing more on quality. Whenever you can see the market feedback. Whenever CCI is preparing good quantity in India, definitely market quality aspect is nobody is complaining about quality because we have a set procedure. We cannot go shortcut. Whatever procure, which we are focusing on the quality only, giving focus on the production, processing, everything, so that everybody should go in the direction to improve the quality of the cotton. For that reason only to motivate the Indian cotton industry, and in World Cotton and 7th of this October, and the government of India has introduced the Indian brand. This is the first time in India that the Kasturi India Cotton, Kasturi Cotton India. This is the brand name introduced in October itself, and we are now in the early stage. We are coming in the public domain also. Then once this is brand is publicized and everybody is change the mindset to go for branding, and definitely the Indian cotton industry will improve and to the much extent, and that will gain that the number one producing country. As a producing country, we can gain out of that branding only. So with this, I conclude my initial session. If any question answer there, will be glad to answer. Thank you.
Yeah, can I have one question, Sunil? Yeah, Mr. Panigiri, can I ask a question? It is regarding MSP basically. See, you would be interested to know, means last year you created a record procurement of say 105 lakh bales already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any estimated quantity for this year also looking to?
So, as I told, no, we have no quantity limit because as a government policy, whatever the FAQ grade, fair average quality is coming to the market. If it is below the MSP price, rules below the MSP price, then definitely we have to procure. But as I told, because now the market is improving, definitely it's improving since last 6 months because of world because of coronavirus pandemic, the economy is going down, but now it is improving, and Indian consumption is increasing, and the demand of yarn also increasing. So I expect that within 2-3 months, market may improve, still further may improve. So our procurement may be running around the same around 1 crore bale only. But you cannot not be assured, cannot be confirmed at that time. But whatever to quantity come to market, we have to procure. But as of now, we are estimating that around another 1 crore bale we have to procure on the market.
And also, there are certain market where CCI network and focus is more like in AP, Telangana, you do fantastic job, even in some other states. Are there any states where you feel that quality, FAQ qualities are not available? So, question is basically which are the focus state where you will buy most, and which are the other states where you feel there will be low procurement?
Yeah, actually, it depends on, as you rightly said, and generally, basically, you see the past records of the procurement of the corporation. Basically, the procurement is done mostly in the southern belt only, in Telangana, Andhra only. And because there are various reasons are there, the cotton industry is not there. There other factors are not working there. Farmers are there is no cotton seed industry is there. So many factors are there. So they are getting more. We have to procure more from the Telangana belt. But current season, if you see the initial stage, and we have started with Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan. Generally you do not get any demand from there in that region any from since the last 3-4 years. But from this year, from the beginning of the seasons, we are getting more demand from those areas in Punjab, Rajasthan, Haryana, and from 10 lakhs well, as I told, we already procured only from the northern belts only. So now this year, everywhere demand is there, and I think we have to cover across India. In initial stage, after I think after 2-3 months, after February or March, market may improve, and our requirement may not be there in the market.
Okay, thank you.
I think there are a couple of questions from the.
I thought you were on mute.
Can I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Panigre sir, I think cotton as a commodity and actually CCI as an organization is a unique organization where it has access to both farmers as well as the industry in terms of being a provider of the textile to the millers. So I would just like to understand like whether you do give inputs to the government of India, like what kind of quality cotton should be grown by the farmers, so that the acceptance of cotton fiber during your procurement is much better. Say, for example, this year you would have done certain amount of procurement, and based on that, giving inputs to the government of India so that it can be passed on to the relevant departments, so that the farmers grow that kind of cotton which is more acceptable to the market and maybe which is more export oriented.
So yeah, definitely, it's the right question. But as you showed, as in India, there are so many, all the 4 variety species of the cotton are grown in India, and different parts it depends on the soil of the soil. If you grow southern, whatever the grown in southern belt, if you try to develop in northern belt, it will fail. So definitely, whatever the cotton is grown, as I told, cotton is the best quality cotton in India, but only because of our mindset to procure and produce the process the cotton in a very fair and transparent manner. That is not happening. Otherwise, quality is not bad in India. And this is one of the best quality we are producing everywhere. And if you see this northern belt, it is the medium staple cotton. This is 28 millimeter cotton, as I told, staple length is 28 mm. That is used for different purpose. This cannot be stopped. And similarly, in central part, we are going on the long staple cotton, medium long staple cotton, 28, 29, 30 mm cotton. That is also required. And then in southern belt, it is long staple cotton, extra long staple cotton. That is for 30 and 32 mm cotton. Every part we have sufficient cotton, sufficient types of cottons are there. This is required by the industry also. Only thing is that we have to improve the production, the processing capacity. For that, we already recommending government of India every time. And now on this stage, also first to introduce technology mission on cotton. You must have ever in 2010, the government has introduced technology mission on cotton. Because of that reasons only factories are modernized. Prior to 2010, all the factories, ginning and pressing factories, are very in bad shape. That all non-modern factories are there. After the introduction of technology mission on cotton, TMC, we call TMC, the product that factories are developed. Now we are focusing on the last stage, in the total fiber, fully contaminated control cotton. For that reason, also TMC2 is already recommended to Government of India to introduce technology mission cotton to second stage. In that stage, we are recommending to further improve the processing capacity, processing facilities, so that you can produce better quality cotton. So already we are time to time recommending the Government of India to how to improve the quality of the cotton. Based on that, we are taking some decision, and government also taking their decision to improve the quality of the cotton.
Just in addition to whatever I asked in my previous question, the demand for organic cotton or organic branded cotton is growing in most of the countries, especially European countries. And so, is like CCI taking any steps towards that to address the industry or the farmers specifically on this particular subject? Because the value addition is more in case of organic cotton.
Yeah, just agreed. But for that reason only, I can say that recently government has set up a committee, the Agriculture Department and Textile Commission Department and the CCI, to already formed a committee to study about the organic cotton. I think the next week some meeting is there. First meeting is there for how to develop organic cotton. That is also even though you know that organic cotton is there, but you're not able to publicize. the organic cotton, and we are not able to give this actual right price to the for organic cotton. We have already given suggestion to Government of India to fix a price for the MSP price for organic cotton also, because there is no separate price for organic cotton. We cannot purchase separately as organic cotton and MSP. They have to procure, they have to sell in the normal price only. For that reason, also MSP organic cotton that nobody is developing. So for that reason, only government has already taken steps, and I think next week the first meeting is there regarding how to develop organic cotton. And I think government is taking already thinking in the direction to develop organic cotton, to increase the production of organic cotton in India.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Panigrahi. I think there are some questions from the attendees as well. So two of them I think are directed to you, Panigrahi, and one of them I'll open it up for all panelists. So
Okay.
I'll combine the two questions. So it says, what are the steps taken by CCI to increase exports to trim the record stocks? And also the second question is for CCI. CCI already has higher ending stocks. How would CCI manage the stock since it's a biodegradable material? So I think if you could answer those, the other question, I'll open it up for panelists later.
Okay. Shall I answer now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
As regards to first question regarding export, we have even though your CCI is not directly exporting, but our cotton purchasing from by the traders and other MNCs, they are exporting, and now demand is there. Even China is continuously buying from India now, and I think it will surpass the last year's export number. It will go more than 60-70 lakhs bales. Previously, we used to 40-50 lakhs bales, and now it will increase to 60-70 lakhs bale in the current season itself. And in addition to that, the government of India has already taken on the matter with Bangladesh to a B2B export, business to business directly from G2G, not B2B, sorry. And government to government export already in the final stage. We are also in discussion stage. Our Secretary Textile also visited Bangladesh and to discuss this G2G export to Bangladesh. Once this materializes, then definitely it will benefit for both India and Bangladesh. And this is in the discussion stage only. Once it materialized, then definitely there is export will increase, definitely increase to more extent. Now still we feel that from last year 15-20% increase will be there in export sector, because now demand is there because of quality, because of quality, as I told earlier, because since CCI is procuring more cotton and we are more focusing on quality of the cotton, definitely even if we are not exporting directly, but from our cotton and CCI cotton is going to export, and definitely increase in the export share is definitely increase. And second part is that cotton biodegradable. This is not correct version. This is, cotton cannot be biodegradable. It will for 3-4 years it will continue. There is no problem. Cotton will not lose its characteristics. You can see that in China is holding 3 years stock, 4 years stock. There is not a problem. Cotton not a problem. So we are not a panic seller now. For that reasons only, because of our stand only, CCI stand only, market is now stabilizing and market is improving. If you panic and you sell at lower cost, because they're thinking that cotton will lose their characteristics, it will hamper the cotton economy. So it is the wrong version that cotton will be degradable. It will then definitely not lose its characteristics. It can continue for 2-3 years also. So for the sake of the audiences, so I would like to say that out of the procurement of 105 lakh bales, already we have sold 70 lakhs bales. Not that all the stocks are with us, already 70 lakhs already sold, and still demand is there because mills are not covering regularly from CCI. So I don't think any major stock will be there with us. So we are selling and procuring, so it will be continued process. So that there will be no more stock will not be there with CCI.
Thank you, Panigrahi. I guess one more question is around for the ginners, that lower ginning margins could demotivate the value addition, which we have been discussing.
Yeah.
What would be the best way to motivate ginners to produce more, and hopefully the policy around improving their margins?
That is very difficult question. It depends on the margin, because if the market goes down, then definitely that's why the reason that CCI is entering in the market. When CCI is not there, this is a dual. CCI is more procuring more, definitely Genuine has to do the job work only. And job work they're earning. They're not that they're not earning, but they're not able to earn as a traders. But as a job work holder, they're getting their shares. There's not an issue. But once market improve, then only they can get their shares. Otherwise, it will be difficult. But I think after February and March, definitely market will improve, and definitely Genuine has to interfere, and Genuine has to procure.
Thank you very much, Panigrahi. I think it's hearing you and Sadhana ji, I think it seems like we are indeed at a crossroad where we have CCI has participated a lot in improving where we started back in 1970 from a situation where we were importing cotton to being self-sufficient. I think the crossroad decisions are and policies are towards, I think, getting to a point where we can be more of a value add in the future as well. But thank you for your inputs, and thank you for giving us the data as well. I would like to move to Mr. Alok Pradhan now. Alokji, just wanted to understand from you as we look at, I think the major portion in any commodity supply chain is, of course, the financing and the liquidity attached to it. Liquidity in terms of the financing itself. How do you see financing playing a role in terms of improving the supply chain for cotton in India and also for exports? So over to you, Alok.
Yeah, good morning to all the panelists and attendees, and thank you, Origo Commodities, especially Sunur and Vijay sir, for giving me an opportunity to be part of this webinar. From a financing perspective, just like any other agricultural crop in India, the opportunities for finance lie in both the pre-harvest as well as the post-harvest segments. You have programs like the Kisan Credit Card and others which focus on the pre-harvest part of financing for any crop. But in cotton, because there is a lot of value addition which happens, and also the supply chain which is more structured in terms of ginners, spinners, in the entire value chain, there are a lot of specific products that banks have introduced for this particular commodity. From a commodities financing perspective, I think cotton is one of the largest crops in terms of percentage when it comes to financing on commodities. Like it would be one of the top 3 commodities on which post-harvesting financing happens. But while listening to Mr. Panigrahi sir, I would agree that cotton is one of the unique products in commodities financing which has a longer shelf life when compared to other agricultural commodities like a paddy or a wheat or spices for that matter. But you can say the treatment that is meted out to cotton when it comes to commodities financing is similar when you compare to these crops. Say, for example, in cotton, a cotton bale can be kept as such. I mean, the characteristic of the cotton fiber usually doesn't change for more than a year, for more than 2 or 3 years. But the financing which happens in the post-harvest chain is usually for a 9 or 12-month period. Similar to, you can say, crops which are more perishable or which are more susceptible to physical wear and tear. And I think there should be a focus when it comes to not just banks, but other financial institutions where we can finance cotton for a longer period of time. Also, as CCI, for example, caters to both farmers in terms of procurement of cotton and also to the traders for supply of cotton, probably, I mean, one of the basic tenets of CCI is to stabilize the prices. Probably CCI could also form you can say a pillar in the entire financing chain where it is able to give some sort of support to banks when the cotton is probably financed for a longer period of time. Maybe that can be looked at. It's something that came to my mind when Mr. Panigrahi talked about the longevity of cotton and also the relative low wear and tear of cotton over a period of 2-3 years. Probably we can look at that as well. So in terms of financing, the entire supply chain in cotton is financed, right from the farmers to the traders, ginners, and spinning mills, etc. When commodities financing initially started, I think there was no concept of providing pricing based on the staple lengths and also based on the quality of cotton. When commodities financing probably started in 2004-5, the focus was more on financing different kinds of commodities, and so the FAQ prices were factored in when the financing happened for the commodities. But now, in the past 4 or 5 years, the staple lengths are being considered, the variety is being considered, the quality of cotton overall is being considered for financing, and so you get a premium based on the kind of cotton that is being financed during by the banks. So these are a few points. Based on what Vijay sir said during the initial talk, I would also just like to point out a few, because here I'm in Africa, in East Africa, which is one of the largest markets in terms of imports. I reside in Djibouti, which is a very small economy, but the Ethiopian economy, which is the nearest neighbor, it is the second largest populated country in Africa, and it does almost 20 billion worth of imports every year. It's an import dependent country because most of the products or you can see even crops that are grown are not sufficient for meeting the domestic demand. And Ethiopia, we would have this image conjured up about a country which is very poor, which is famine-stricken, etc., etc. But over the last 1 decade, like from 2010 onwards, it's been growing at a rate of about 9.5%. The GDP is growing at a rate of about 9.5%. The decadal growth has been in that range, which is one of the highest in the world, and maybe very few, you can say, so-called super economies realize that. And so their propensity for consumption has increased manifold over the last decade or so. And if I come to commodities per se or agro commodities per se, there are 4 or 5 categories of commodities which are quite, you can say, liquid in the Ethiopian market. The broken rice is very much in demand. Broken rice, sugar, and sunflower oil and palm oil. These are the 4 major commodities which are imported by Ethiopia. And I'm giving this example of these 4 commodities because there is an Indian role to play here, because in case of broken rice, it's always India and Pakistan commodity which comes in case of you can say sugar, we compete with Brazil. So if you go to the market, it's always Brazil sugar and Indian sugar, whichever is cheaper. In case of broken rice, it is either Pakistan rice or India rice, which is cheaper. So we compete with other countries when it comes to these commodities. But here again, when you look at the MSP thing that we have been discussing on cotton, when you talk about broken rice, it is not governed by the MSP. So probably when millers and traders and exporters, they try to supply to markets like East Africa, which are which are booming at this point in time. We can leave aside COVID because this year is a misnomer in the entire scheme of things. But the propensity for consumption is quite high in African countries. So cotton is a very small component of the overall import that the East African section of Africa is doing right now. But there is a scope for definitely for yarn, because I see a lot of yarn coming in here. And probably if that thing can be focused on, it can be a good opportunity for India to make a place for itself here. Also, because of the belt and road initiative of China, which is happening in Africa, there are a lot of investments in infrastructure that are happening over here. In Djibouti specifically, about $10 billion worth of infrastructure development is going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years. and it will be the location which would have the largest free zone in the African continent. And if you go and kind of find the companies that are there in these free zones, you would see that the presence of Indian companies is quite minimal, especially when it comes to value-added products. Say, for example, if you take polymers, for example, or something of that sort, we are not there at all. And probably that is where the industry associations or the commodity associations need to understand a little bit about this market, which seems to be small, but these economies are really growing in a big way. So I think the Indian Embassy, for example, has just opened last year, and they have organized webinars with the Chamber of Commerce in Bombay, and they have been doing this sort of initiatives. But ultimately, it all boils down to what kind of investments that are made here, probably by Indian companies over a period of time. That would really help in creating a new market for Indian products here, not just cotton, but I'm talking in an overall sense.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you for your
Thank
inputs. It's interesting to note that I think, as you said, Indian presence in your free trade zones and the Ethiopian markets is also very low. But I think it coincides with what Vijayji and Panigriji also added, that I think goes back to the same point. I think the topic of the conversation would have been India at crossroads for cotton and other commodities. But I think we seem to be at crossroads for more than cotton, and value addition seems to be low for not just cotton, but for other sects of commodities as well. But thank you again for your inputs. And again, thank you for joining from East Africa as well. I know it was early morning for you, but thank you again for your inputs. I would like now to move to Mr. Pinakin Dave. Pinakin, I think from being at a crossroads where we have been discussing so far, I think one of the critical points to discuss is that any commodity will not be able to grow in its own domain without a structured market. And I think a structured market is important both from availability of contracts, the liquidity, open position, and also a hedging strategy. So wanted to understand from your perspective, looking at the commodity products and of course from an exchange perspective as well, and also broadly trade. How do you see Indian markets maturing to support the trade activity and also the hedging, so that more and more trade, also hopefully more and more value-added products can be added to the Indian markets? Over to you, Pinakin.
Thank you, Sunurji. Good morning, good afternoon to all the participants and to my fellow panelists. And I'm really thankful to Origo Commodities for giving us a chance to be a part of this wonderful esteemed panel. Coming to your question, Sunurji, there are various ways in which the value addition can be done as far as Indian ecosystem or the ecosystem of the exchanges are concerned. So it is very important to understand that for a market to develop or for an derivatives market to develop, first the primary function or the key function of an exchange needs to be understood. Now, why a derivative product is launched? For a trader, for a ginner, for a miller, why it becomes important for him to participate on the exchange platform, and what are the benefits of him participating? So there is a thin line between hedging and speculation, and many a times it is misunderstood that it is all about speculating. So there is lack of awareness, but I would really like to thank the regulators, the SEBI, for creating a wonderful platform and giving us a free space to think over new products and to design a product and to launch the product. So unlike the traditional approach which has been revolving around launching a product, we have taken a stand, and at BAC we believe in first spending some time on the ground and actually understanding what are the nitty-gritties of the product, and why is it important to launch the product, what are the areas where the value addition can be done. Say for example, today when we talk about cotton, there are many places like the ginner is not getting the right material to produce the right quality, as uh, Sardana sir said, and as Mr. Panigrihi also pointed out. The most important thing for me as an exchange is here to highlight is that despite of these things, you can eliminate your working capital by hedging. So these are the very finer and technical nitty-gritties that one has to understand, and wherein the awareness is still lacking. But yes, slowly and gradually it is there. Coming to the what I feel is there is a need of a standardized product which has to be marketed. With us, the quality differs from all the pockets. If I talk about Gujarat, if I talk about Maharashtra, the quality remains the same, focusing on cotton. But if I talk about the northern states like Rajasthan, the upper Rajasthan, or Punjab or Haryana, the quality again differs. So unless and until we have a uniform pricing, a uniform quality, I mean, these are just thoughts which can be deliberated on. We'll have many more areas to ponder over and you know work upon with the actual associations or with the actual farmer or with the actual ginner. uh, a significant step that SEBI has taken is educating the FPOs. So in an attempt to bridge the gap with the exchange, so that FPOs can directly come to the exchange and hedge their positions, understand why exchanges are here, and avail trade finance by pledging their materials. Or there are various other benefits that are passed on to these FPOs. So there are various steps which are taken, and we also believe in adding more value to the existing ecosystem of the markets by adding new products or new derivatives to be introduced to the markets. So for example, today we have only plain vanilla futures which are traded on the exchange platform. We at BSE have applied to the regulators for allowing us to introduce options in goods. Again, we talk about minimizing the hedging cost and increase the working capital in a very proactive manner, or in a very better way to do like squeeze on the margins and minimize the other cost. But what actually are we doing? How are we if I compare ourselves with the global markets today, ICE being the benchmark for cotton, everyone looks at what is ICE going on. So we are still taking the prices from the overseas markets instead of we dominating the trade, or we being the price setter is the right word rather that I would put across. So it is not that we don't have the ecosystem. We do have that ecosystem. The only thing is fine tuning those things and running again in the right direction to achieve the desired results, and we can definitely be there. We in an attempt to minimize the cost of hedging, we have applied to the regulators for allowing us to launch options on goods. Now these are very unique kind of commodity or a product, derivative product for a commodity trader to understand. So when I say this, the most important aspect is the cost. As far as Indian markets are concerned, the cost becomes very significant area, because if I'm hedging, I am only going to minimize my losses. Now to minimize my losses, if I have to incur a cost, again for a trader or for a ginner, it becomes many a times it becomes invaluable proposition, because he doesn't find any metal in the thought in this entire process, because he's incurring a cost, second he's again going to minimize his losses. So he will not see a significant promise to the idea. So here when we talk about options on goods, the intent is to minimize the cost for a trader or for a hedger to come to explore the markets, to hedge his risk, the most important thing is, and to ensure that he delivers the goods at the expiry, in case if he wants. In case if he doesn't want, he can move out. We've seen the deliveries have been very less number or a part as far as any global markets for derivatives are concerned. So the attempt is that only to create such new products. We are awaiting that approvals, And apart from that, also we have now bifurcated the trade region wise. So in our attempt, we have applied for 2 cotton contracts. So for the very first time, we intend to launch two varieties of cotton. I know the liquidity, many of my participants or colleagues might feel that the liquidity might be scattered, but the intent here is to bring all the participants of the ecosystem, the millers, the traders, the ginners, the farmers of that particular region, so that we go to the region and give them ease of business, so that they can come to the exchange, assess the quality and hedge themselves uh, on the exchange platform. So from my side, from an exchange perspective, yes, we've been taking certain steps in the direction to give a trader or a ginner ease of business, and to ensure that he understands why the markets are there and what is in there for him as a participant or as a trader, and how he can make the most of the markets.
Thank you, Pinakin. Thank you very much for your insights. I think exchange does play a critical role. So I think hopefully as we go forward, the cost of hedging keeps on going down with the regulator support as well. But again, thank you very much. Now I wanted to invite Brijaji to the panel as well. And Brijaji, I think we have heard from a financing perspective, a structured market perspective, we have heard Vijayji talk about how we are at a crossroad, and Panigrahi talk about how we have evolved over the last 30 years. Wanted to understand from your perspective how a service provider like Origo can also catalyze and enable the supply chain so that cotton can perform better in the Indian markets. And also if Origo can also drive some of the initiatives that Sadhana ji said about promoting more value add by facilitating the supply chain in that as well. So Brijaji, over to you. Brijaji, you're on mute, I think.
Okay, thank you, Sunurji. I think it was a very informative and wonderful discussion. We got a lot of knowledge in last 1.5 hours, particularly from Mr. Vijay Sardana, CCI, Mr. Panigrahi, and other panelists also. Like other participants, one thing is coming to my mind right now is how can we best apply this knowledge to help the trade participants, whoever is the participant on even on this webinar also. So fortunately we are placed better, and we are already partnering with the traders or the farmers or whoever is doing business in this segment. I can say we are covering post-harvest management, and in that post-harvest management, we are covering mostly the logistic part. So logistic cost in India is very high, as we all know. It is around 13-14%. And we are trying to make this post-harvest management or supply chain solutions in much better and efficient way. Recent addition, or you can say this is the one-stop solution to all these discussions whatever we are having, and we to help the trade participants. Basically, we have launched a new product called that is TradeFi. This TradeFi enables the participants to give solutions for all 4 problems. And when I'm saying all 4 problems in post-service management, the 4 problems comes to my mind is it starts from procurement, then it is a financing, then it is a warehousing piece, and then last one is the market linkage. There are others also, but these are the 4 key help basically any trader or ginner or spinner need. Let me give you one example. I think 2 years back, we talked to one ginner in Rajasthan. He was facing issues to procure right kind of quality from the market. We helped him in getting right kind of quality in from multiple points. when I say that we helped him, we have I think within our company, we have in-house capability to test the quality of cotton. We have around 650 warehouses across 15 states, team of professionals around 1500 people who understand all commodity including cotton. So we helped those ginners to and told him that these are the places where the right kind of quality is available. We did some kind of testing at the ginner place and then helped him in procuring right kind of quality. When it came to the storage, we gave him the right kind of storage facilities also with all our technical facilities. When it comes to the financing also, because generals generally feel like they have some working capital limit with the finance, they have some other kind of limits with the finance. But in case management is good and they look at good kind of opportunity that even whatever limit banks are providing, beyond that they have capability to execute better trade. So through Trade5 product, what we are doing is we are giving him opportunity to procure off balance sheet also. So we have offered him solution like we will provide you warehouse. We have provided him quality and procurement support, and we have taken his cotton in our balance sheet instead of asking him to take him in his own balance sheet. So off balance sheet kind of finance was provided to the ginner. It was a big ginner. We supported him for around to procure around 40 crore within a season. So, and then when it came to the market linkages also at the later stage, we gave him insight how to trade, where to trade, which are the suppliers, which are the buyers. So we help him in liquidating that commodity also. I think 2 years back we did all this thing offline basically. We didn't have any product over there. And then we looking at the challenges, we started working on some kind of software. We came up with a kind of software that is Trade5 right now. This is a automated platform provided by Origo, where warehouses, lenders, suppliers, everybody can talk together on this platform on real-time basis. Even the buyer or whoever, Giner or spinner who wanted to take the finance, he can just throw the queries and then he can get some kind of answers. Even he can see his stock in which warehouse, what is lying. So we have CCTV enabled kind of facilities in those warehouses, and we can give access to those dinners also. So I'm happy and we are glad to share that whatever points are being highlighted in this webinar since last 1.5 hour, the kind of value addition, at least for a limited space in which we are working, that's the logistic and supply chain space. We are trying to add a lot of value to this space. We are trying to make this supply chain very efficient, and we are trying to make this entire supply chain through this Trade5 automated, transparent, and trustworthy. I think the point raised by Mr. Sardana was very well taken. I think any investor sitting outside India or anywhere, if he'll see those kind of seamless softwares and automated platform where he can control all these things, he can see real-time basis what activity is happening at what place, then probably they will get those kind of confidence and comfort. And at the same time, we are providing the integrated approach and a lot of convenience to the trade participants. So whoever want to trade, he are not needed to move to multiple places like for financing. He is not needed to go to bank. He has to log in and tell us what is his requirement. So this is an innovation probably we did in last 1.5 year, and I think interaction and interest is very high. Recently, probably Mr. Sunur has taken a good initiative. I think we tried to securitize all these assets through our electronic negotiable warehouse receipt things. I think we have securitized around 6.5 crores maize commodity lying in some warehouses in Gulab Bagh area. In nutshell, which I could understand is that we have tried and successfully converted these commodities lying in our warehouses into a product like equities. Those instruments are being traded on the exchanges basically, probably on NSE, Sonurji. That
was listed with SEBI, Briaji. So it's
yeah,
it's a
that was
SEBI instrument. Yeah.
that was listed with SEBI. So you can see the kind of transformation in commodity market. I think commodity lying in warehouses, if we add a lot of value to the with the right kind of automation and right kind of software technology in place, then I think there is a huge potential to convert commodity into a instrument which can be listed on SEBI and can act like a investment instrument for the investor sitting outside. So, in nutshell, I can say that whatever knowledge is being imparted on this platform, we are trying to be one of the trusted partners to all Ginners and spinners and all the participants, and we are trying to give them solution which is kind of automated platform and giving all kind of convenience and comfort as per their need. So I think we are trying to apply knowledge through our platform in the interest of this trade participants. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Briaji. And at this point, if any questions any of the panelists have, I would like to welcome those on any topic. But I wanted to just thank you, each and every one of everybody on the panel, and of course, all the attendees as well, who on a Friday morning took the time out. I know it's not easy. So Dhananjay, thank you very much for your inputs. And I think defining that ecosystem, it was enlightening to know how we are truly at a crossroad. I think we have come a long way, but a long way to go from here. Panigriji, I think it was a welcome note to understand we have come a long way since over the last 30, 40 years. And I think the initiatives CCI is taking, even amid the COVID crisis, I think CCI has participated to make sure that the market doesn't go in a spiral, and I think it doesn't go down. So thank you again for joining us this morning and providing your inputs. Alok, thank you for joining. And I think it was good to hear inputs around how we are, well, in a good and a bad way, I think how we're still behind in terms of the value added as compared to some of our neighboring countries from an East African point of view, how you see from an outside perspective, and also the financing of cotton. So thank you for joining. And Pinikin, it was great having you on board to understand how the structured product around cotton works. Great to have your inputs. And Briaji, thank you for joining this morning to understand how a service provider can enable a supply chain to make it more structured. Liquidity can be there, and how Origo can also help securitize the commodity to make the liquidity in cotton to be much, much higher. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for a lovely webinar this morning. And thank you for your time Friday morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You all.